let me open up the discussion to the other participants from Malaysia and also in India and elsewhere. And you are now free to sort of make a comment or ask questions of the speakers or just even among yourselves.
There are one or two questions.
Rama has a question.
Rama?
Put this question in the chat box.
Rama, because you are here, you want to just alert it.
You can voice it. Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious to know. I mean, I know that we've talked a lot about movies, and these are movies, of course. They're dramatized, and they're therefore become very popular, and so on, and they're advertised, big billboards, and all that stuff. My question is really about documentaries, because I know that what happens in the movies is they'll change the cast, they'll change the religion of the person and stuff like that. So I'm curious to know whether there's a documentary culture in Tamil Nadu. I know that in the UK, for example, there is the BBC, and they make a lot of documentaries. And in my work in death in custody, in particular, I've watched many documentaries of deaths in custody from around the world, the US and UK, but I don't recall any coming from India. Now it could be that they're there and I just don't know about them. So please comment on that. Thank you.
Shall I, sir?
Yeah.
Yes. Ramanathan, sir, yes. We also have ethnographies written ethnographies. One is written by Thurston, and it has been supplemented by Rangacharya and published in 1891 around. It is called Caste and Tribes of India. So during 80s, this was the first document, and we also have gazetteers, all written documents, but not visual documents, all written documentaries about the culture, about the ethnographies of all communities of India. So the Anthropological Survey of India is a central body, central government body, and during 1996 they have taken a big project and documented. Professor K.S. Singh as the editor of this book, titled People of India volume, and every state has been given opportunity. And similarly, Tamil Nadu Department of Anthropology, University of Madras, all my teachers were part of this project, and the ethnographies were documented. So these two documental evidence, and besides that, state gazetteers, which has been written again by the then British authorities from their perspective, from their cognitive perspective and understanding about the caste and communities of Tamil Nadu, caste and communities of India as a whole. So this is the one thing. But definitely these are taken it as a base document for the administrators in dealing these caste issues, and including the law, including the legal apparatus, do take these two documents and try to verify certain basic issues about or basic details about the communities. I have been constantly telling that these documents have been in written, and its objective was different during those times. When Thurston has written, we didn't had any reservation, and he has not really clearly differentiated what is caste, what is tribe, and what is scheduled caste and what is scheduled tribe. So this is the one thing which the book has not taken into consideration, because then it does not arise. Similarly, when Anthropological Survey, they were more into distribution rather than making these differences, and nobody was keen on understanding the political economy, understanding the existing reality, understanding this caste structure and discriminative terminologies, and we have been liberally using these terminologies, concepts, theories, and then started reflecting the ethnographies in a similar line. So this is the biggest problem. But as of now, everywhere, no, like it is piecemeal. Every organization, every line government department also do document these ethnographies, particularly the way of life, the cultural component of these communities, and they are trying to document it. But we didn't had, as you rightly pointed out, the base records, also, which is in the premises of open source, and all that is not available.
James, put the other question next one.
Right,
There's a comment
there's a comment.
Comment.
from Ramani.
Thank
Okay,
you.
if I may just, I mean, that was a very interesting exposition, but that wasn't really my question. Take the case of Sengani, for example, the Jaibin. My question is, why is there no documentary with the real names of the people and so on? Why is it that we have to have a movie which, changes names and
Exactly.
why? I mean, are there no documentaries?
Movie uses the actual.
It's a document, as the police department do have all those real names.
No,
Parvati.
that's not my, sorry, if I may just clarify. I'm saying that what we are getting from India, I mean, what we're seeing is these commercialized movies. They're a good thing. I'm not saying they're a bad thing. They are a good thing.
Yeah.
My question is, are there not documentaries which tell the real names, the real castes, the real religious identities, such as BBC documentaries or
No, we
are
don't
there
have.
such?
We don't have.
And
Sir.
why is that? Why is that there are no such documentaries? Why do they have to be dramatized?
Exactly. It's a good question. According to us, anything deals with caste, community, particularly, I could use the exact word jati. That is a more appropriate word which we are using it in everyday life. It is called jati identification, jadi chandridal, jadi. This is how we are using that. This is always been perceived as a sensitive. And the people are also, that's what I said, the name of the policeman in JB is Guru. And he was a very big leader in a particular party, and that is what is real hurt for them. Do you know how they related these things, or a real serious issue? It is not that they are worried about Chingani or Parvati, and that is not the issue. Their only issue is this, and that is how it has been stopped at different levels also. Even releasing it in a theaters has been constantly protested. It would have given a different impact altogether. But still, associating these names, we are not. Every time I had seen, even with the police department, if it is as everything they try to understand from the communal perspective, no doubt it will be communal at one point of time, and they will handle it with high cautious and doesn't reveal it. If some murder happens in a dominant community, the entire stretch of houses will be burnt in Dalit hamlets. Even today we have Ur Cheri. Main the bus stand is that. Bus stand comes only in Ur. Only in town, or only in the main dominant place of the physical structure, and not to the Cheri. Cheri doesn't have proper approach roads also. They don't have their own symmetries. And that's why they were fighting. Not only the bus stand, there are a lot of protests, and now the collectors and everybody, but this, if you could ask me whether it has been documentaries and it has been witnessed at different levels, no, it is not there. It has been kept confidential, and the collector takes the responsibility of that place and try to deal the issues at the earliest to save the communities of who are in conflicting situation.
Dr. John
Yeah,
wants to say
thank you.
something.
Rama, the Jebim movie reveals the actual names and the personality. So the movie actually, what is more interesting is the documentaries that came out after the movie, even highlighting Periyar or Ambedkar or Karl Marx and Justice Chandru background. It's a concrete case. But in the other stories, I agree, these are movies. So the draws, not necessarily, but on caste and related Dalit issues, there are other civil society and human rights groups that have done documentation. If you Google Dalit and the movements, you have some of that. And so we need to move on.
Yeah.
But maybe that's an area that Tamil Nadu, maybe legal battles, other reasons why actual names sometimes are not used.
Yes.
Because I think in Karunan,
Karnan.
that movie, it's actually a related story of Madurai,
Yes.
a recent incident that took place. So movies might have that. But maybe we can look at documentaries as well. But ethnographic studies and other documentation is there. I think we need to move on.
Yeah, I think Dr. John
John.
wants to make a
John,
comment. Yeah.
Dr. John,
Yes, sir.
you need to unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Just a very short, Dr. Sumati really pointed out wonderful things with her basic knowledge of what's happening in India and community. So I want to fully agree with her that all of these movements, Dravidian movements, social reservation, the ground situation has not fully changed, at least internally. You know, caste and the discrimination has not vanished from the hearts of the people.
Yeah.
Externally, there may be a lot of pressure, the laws, all of those things have put pressure on them, but then there is always effort to circumvent that or bypass that or suppress all of that. And many times they are succeeding. The basic factor I personally feel is why these things are failing totally is that the very close relationship of caste and the so-called whatever social stratifications are there with regard to the Indian politics, because politics is very closely related to caste, and now that has actually increased in such a higher level even today. So everybody want to play the caste card for election, and therefore people want to keep quiet. Why Dr. Sumati said sensitive. What is the sensitivity about it? If you talk about it, you are out, or you can't win the election. If you don't win the election, you don't have power. So once you don't have power, you can't do anything. So it's a close interrelation between caste and politics in India, which may not be very true with other places. There may be some similar elements like black and white and the Mexican and all in US and other places. But I think it's much more intrinsic, deep-rooted in India. So that is one thing. So how do you really, bifurcate or separate caste from the Indian political system? If anybody can make a study on those things, and then that will be much more useful in making a real change. That's one thing. Then another comment that Dr. Sumati made note is about the Dravidian movement and how it was an anti-Brahmin movement practically. It was against, basically Dravidian movement is an anti-Brahmin movement. But the caste, upper caste people are so clever or shrewd. Somebody told me, the Brahmins are so shrewd that after some decades, a Brahmin sits at the head of, as the head of an anti-Brahmin party. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, the Brahmin shrewdness is such that they hijack the anti-Brahmin party or movement and sits as a head of that. I'm not naming because even we are all sensitive. Okay, it's all political sensitiveness. I hope all of you understand about whom I am telling. But this is the truth about India. But now also about Professor Ramanathan's question about documentaries. You know, documentaries are emotive things. You know, documentary movies. You know, you don't find any movies because these are popular things. It's quite different from ethnographies or other studies like that. So when you have ethnographies, it's mainly used for academic or government purpose, only administrative or academic. It doesn't hardly reach out to the common man. So the people in politics are more afraid of the common man because the common man has the vote. So again, it links back to politics. So therefore, nobody will be willing to irritate any public common man by documentaries being presented to the ordinary man. Therefore, they may change the names, they may not even have it. Everything will be there in other forms, not in movies. And if you are aware that in the recent few years, at least last 4 or 5 years, the protests against movies which have any kind of communal references in India has increased so much in the last 5, 6 years, or maybe 7 years. So every time there is a reference, anything against an upper caste or anything of that moment, or even about a lower caste, it's violence and everything around. Theaters are burned around. So who will want to make a documentary? So this is the way it's happening. I think I should stop there.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, good point, Dr. John.
General
So, the other questions. Oh, yes.
Any other?
You can participate.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah,
Yes, Prof. Tansri.
Is there somebody else or shall I?
No, you, Tansri.
Okay. Thank you very much. And it has been a very interesting webinar for the last 1.5 hours. And actually, this reform movement through the films and cinema is not recent. It has been there when I think Dr. Dennison touched about it when Periyar and DK and DMK was formed in the 1940s and 50s itself. The DMK started using cinema as a reform agenda. I think the number of films that came up during the 50s, like Parasakti and Ori Ravu and so on, they all were located on the reformist agenda. And of course, it was also an anti-Brahmin agenda. And they used this, for example, Parasakti, if any of you have seen that film, the Shivaji Ganesan coming from Rangoon, and then he's cheated to Madras, and especially it shows very well about the Brahmins cheating the local people. And so the reformist agenda has been there for a long time. And they also, in terms of the Dravidian model, is that they had, there was a resurgence about the Tamil language, culture, and tradition. And they were not, it's also, they were anti-caste, but as Dr. Sumadhi has pointed out, I was actually very surprised that 98% are still caste-based. It's a caste-based society. Even if you see the Bollywood films, you will see so much of caste being done. I think one of the films that we saw was that the lower caste had no access to the well to get water. So some reformists just got hold of a lower caste fella and put him in the well, and then they couldn't come and take the water. So coming back to this, my question I wanted to ask was what impact that all these films are making. It was very clear that since Tamil Nadu is such a stratified caste-based society, can be done, very little can be done. However, these 4 films that we have seen, it is an agent of sensitizing. The role has been a sensitizing and consciousness raising in terms of poverty, in terms of those who have been discriminated by caste and so on. I didn't know that there were so many categories of of people. So they're very finely, very finely defined. All these castes, scheduled castes and backward castes and high castes and so on and so forth. So for the question is, of course, now the films that are coming, I mean, apart from these social agenda films, there are a lot of other films, but nowadays Tamil movies are just abuse of power, political strength and corruption and violence. And you can't see that the sort of violence that are depicted in Tamil movies or in the Hindi movies. So much of violence. So the conclusion to this, to the, I think Dr. Denison has talked about it. Of course, police brutality has been shown in JB, and you can really relate that to custodial deaths in our own country. So how the custodial deaths, I mean, nobody, I mean, there's so much of people who are interested has been raised the issue, but nothing is being done. I think Dr. Denison, you sat in that in the police commission and you made a lot of recommendations at that commission, but the recommendations never came out. And so I think the films as a whole has got an agenda, a role. As I said, it is a sensitizing role. Otherwise, it is just a masala films, what they call masala films. That is, there's dancing, there's a little bit of fighting, and then there's a story, high caste, low caste, and so on. But really, I think I was quite, encouraged by Sumati saying that there are movements. For example, when Kalaignar was in power, he had what is called integrated housing. He started integrated housing where all classes of classes or castes can be mixed. I don't know how far that has been successful. I'm not sure. So I think there were a lot of the Dravidian model. They had an agenda, and although it started as an anti-Brahmin this thing, but the sensitivity in terms of their culture, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, it's a Dravidian culture. And so I mean, nobody knew about this. And the language, I think there is renaissance of the Tamil language has been there because of them. The way that Karnanidhi, Annathore, and all the other people spoke. I mean, Karnanidhi's speeches, I think, I mean, he can move mountains, and related to the Kavignar, Kannadasan, and his content. And all these are reformist agenda, although it is, I think it stirs in you that there is something that had to be done. So there is some impact, although it is a caste-based society, there are people who are willing to do something about it. So there is a role for this type of films. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhansri. Thanks for that elaboration.
Can I,
As you can see, many of the things you said about India also can apply to Malaysia. It's not difficult to understand. We fully understand once you talk about India and the caste-based society, we are not free from caste. Bhumiputra and non-Bhumiputra is also a form of a caste.
Yeah, it is. Agreed.
So it is there everywhere. Yeah, thank you. The next, yes.
Can I say something before I need to step out? I thank the chairperson, Dr. Dennison, and the group. And I'm going to borrow a few words from Tan Sri Marimutu. Cinema is a reform agenda, agents of sensitizing the community. Okay, when we discussed about the lessons learned, especially from Dr. Dennison's presentation earlier on the 4 movies, a lot of positive elements. But I like to speak as a social worker who's working directly with the lower income group, more so with children who are in conflict with the law. They get into problems over generations. It's not the first generation. They will come from broken homes. They come from dysfunctional homes. And to them, cinema is also very interesting. They want to watch these movies, but they don't see the lessons learned in the movies. They all identify themselves with the discriminated group in the movie. In the movie, they have the groups who are discriminated, who are ostracized, who are punished. Then they identify themselves to the heroes in the movie. Okay? So it does have an impact. But why do they do this? Because they're actually still searching for an identity. Most of them are surviving. They may be, I'm not talking about even the undocumented and the documented, those even with identity cards. They are Malaysian, but they don't have an identity. They don't have jobs. Worse so, after this 2 years of COVID, a lot of the B40 community were contract workers, daily paid workers, and they're not able to survive now. So what happens? So how does a movie actually impact them? For them, day to day, if they can survive, it's great. And I can tell you, they do not respect power. Those who comes to actually to help, if you talk to them, we're talking about change in policy. We're talking about leaders going down to the community. They don't respect. They don't know. They don't understand about strategic plans. Because to them, if they can see, they want something tangible. They don't want strategic plans. They don't want leaders advocating for them. They want to see reality. They want to see action. They want to experience a quality of life. So that I think is, we need to look at that more than
6 months.
what can we do? I mean, I don't know. We need plans, I agree. So a certain group here, we may need to plan, to strategize, to come out with action plans so that the bottom can benefit. But at the same time, you need to be cognizant of what they're going through day by day. Movies as an outlet for them, movies, serials. See, they come back from a hard day's work. What can they do? They cannot afford to go out and entertain themselves. So movies, serials, wow, they just take over. For a little while, they're in fantasy land. Okay, it's escapism. So you cannot deny that. I think that's important. So we need to look again of empowering the community, making sure they recognize themselves, they have a sense of belonging, and they have self-esteem. They should be proud to be an Indian, proud that they can actually look after their own families, instead of trying and trying and trying. I mean, I could go on, but it's really very sad. Because when I work with these children now, and I work with their parents, even the parents don't know what to do. Because they come from a 3rd generation, 4th generation of the same struggle, you know. They're not the first line generation who's struggling. And many of them, 3 generations ago, frankly, were more comfortable in the plantation sector, where they had a house, they had water, they had electricity, they had a front yard, they had a backyard, they had vegetables, they had fruit trees, they had a Tamil school down the road, maybe in the next division, but there was still a Tamil school. Okay, there was a clinic, there was a visiting doctor, and not this is just at least some positive elements. Today, they are in B40 flats where they don't have physical infrastructure, they don't have proper health care, they don't have education, they don't have any Tamil schools near them. So a lot of it is struggle. So maybe we need to look at movies, what impact? Okay, negative. A lot of it is negative, even though they enjoy watching. If you ask them, what about the religious components in the movies? It doesn't strike them. What about respect you see in the movies? That doesn't strike them. Nallata irukke, ana what is more interesting is the discrimination. Enna pola anganum kashtapataan. Avala pattiya the padathula engala pola thaan irukku. So they identify with that.
Identification.
Yeah, it is strongly I identify with that. And again, why do children drop out? Accessibility, affordability. So we need to look at those. I feel that there are so many things for us to look at the bottom and to see how we can actually bring back the self-confidence in them. I have worked in the plantation sector 30 years ago, and I feel people there were so complacent, but their index of happiness was much higher than in the B40. They were so comfortable. They always tell me, "Ennamma, ella irukku, enna venum." Today, onnume illa. You see, so that is the contrast. I'm not saying go back to the plantation, but we need to look at how we can actually bring in this enabling environment back again to our group of Indians who are struggling daily. So I want to share that because I need to step out. My husband is waiting to go out. So I need to go. James knows where I come from, and if you need to talk to me later, fine. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you for sharing, Amy. I think Dr. Kalaimani
Yeah.
would like to share. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you to Chairman and also Dato' Benson and Doctor for all the speakers. It's a great session. I would like to share a little here. Maybe I'm one of these a person here who's totally not from the social background, from the technical background. Yes, I've been watching my only movie sessions is always Tamil movies. That's where I really felt I'm a Tamil and I'm in this country, to really get into a field being a Tamil. That is one of the opportunity, like what Madam Amy has said, not only for the B40 community, but also people like me. When I want to really hear some nice Tamil words, I'll on Karnan, not the new Karnan, the old Karnan movie.
Yeah,
All those movies which has got a very good speech and dialogues, which is really brings up. But I agree very much with what Madam Amy said. I grew up in an environment where surrounded by 9 estates. My grandparents were from estates. My father and mother both grew up in estate, and what she said just now is the reality of what we use. People were very happy. The Indians had better living, living in sense, not monetary, but life, values and so on, which we felt that when we moved them out from estates, we did not provide them the right surviving, what we call it, chances, that's happened in the 80s and the 90s in Malaysia. But coming back to the caste and the movies about caste, I personally feel, okay, caste, like what doctor said just now, it's not easy to remove Jadi from the Tamils or from India. Being an Indian, being a Tamil, and being born in Malaysia, my mother is also born in Malaysia, but in my own life, nobody came for my wedding because I married someone not same Jadi with me. Can you imagine? I have 300 relatives in that city that I got married. No one came for my wedding. So it is something, it's not easy, and it's not, it's a reality that we have to accept. Okay, let's look at it differently. Why not we make movies which highlights you see, our Jadi is actually very much related to our talent, which we call today skill, and which we call as TVET today. Yeah. So why not we make movies to highlight the skill they have and make them feel I am commercially needed today. Yes. Like the barbers, my neighbors for 50 years in my village, they were a barber family. They used to be really looked down by many people in that area. But today they are in Australia. Their skill is needed in Australia. The grandchildren's now doing, the sons actually decided, except for the elder, the other 4 decided not to do the job because of the humiliation by the society. They went to Singapore and they worked on the cleaning environment as a cleaners and so on. But the 3rd generation now, they went back, they picked up the skill, they really saw the need and today they are in Australia. And they are doing great, and they are wanted. They've been looked upon, and they were praised for their talent. You see, why not we make movies which highlight the talent and those skill that's needed today, which is dying everywhere, and make these people feel that I'm wanted. So I think it's time for us, rather than fighting something that we cannot change, into a commercially needed, and give them the confidence. There's nothing wrong with jadi. There's nothing wrong. In fact, it's something that you can make use positively your talent, whoever you are. You think today, like Marayeri, right? Can anybody do that? They're using robots, they're cracking their head. Why not these people? We give them an advantage and let them do the robots, be part of the robot industry. So this is something that I want to say. I know time is catching up. That's a lot on this. Thank you so much for this great platform. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. To what extent we can integrate talent with entertainment, mix both, while entertainment is important, otherwise the movies don't sell and there's no money and the industry will also collapse. So there is the entertainment dimension, the commercial dimension has to be merged also with any other values or skills or ideas that we have that can bring about social progress. Yeah, that's a challenge and that should be taken up. Yeah. Talent and entertainment, mixing them together and still making the movie commercially viable. Yeah, something we can definitely consider. Thank you for the suggestion. We are running out of time. We have just about another 5 minutes. Unless there are any other pressing questions or comments from the other participants, I will turn the floor back to Prof. Sumadhi for some final remarks. And then Dr. Dennison, and then we close. If there are no further,
I will say something.
Valarmati. Yeah.
Valarmati. I'm from Tamil Nadu only, but I'm staying in Bangalore. That's why, because the jati, that caste is very sensitive. So Kavinar Paradiyar sang the song like this: Odi vilayadu papa, ni oindirilla adu papa. Odi vilayadu papa, oru kulandaye vayade papa. He talked in common. He didn't take any casteism there. It reached out to everybody, and it gave the revolution, that reformation among the children. See, they broken the casteism there. Everywhere in the school they used to tell us. The song was there maybe in the Tamil book it would be there in the primary level. So that is the reformation, the real reformation I am thinking, sir. Movies after Jai Bhim comes also, so many opponents. They were facing so many opponents. It's not like it was hit only victory, but some hindrance were there. So I'm thinking that the reformation means it should be like this, like Bharadiyar, how he sang, and the Tirukural, Tiruvalluvar, how they all made it commonly. It was not hurted somebody else, the particular jati. So I want to be like them, and I wanted to follow that. So I wanted the reformation in that way. Yes, thank you.
Ramani has a question.
Ramani.
Why today's forum exploited?
Okay. Sir.
Is it?
Ramani.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, because each and every points raised by the participants from their own experience is very, very relevant. And I'm really happy because Valarmati has also very beautifully said, talking about Valluvar and talking about Bharadiyar, but I had seen people getting into a serious debate about that Bharadiyar is a Brahmin by community. Valluvar belongs to this community, and Valluvar, there is a Valluvan is a community name, falls into the category of SC. it is such a small community who have been struggling for their identity, because these communities traditional occupation is palm reading. So they will only see astrology for the Dalit community and not for the others. See, these terminologies and this nomenclature, these names has also been perceived in everyday life. J-Beam's, very unfortunately, J-Beam's content and J-Beam's ideology, the very basic premises of the film has not been much debated and not reached. Rather, as Marimuthu sir, it is completely politicized. Even the other person has also, it has been politicized, and it was all the time the PMK and has been constantly showing their anger, so much of violence, and the entire Guru's family members were constantly coming out, and all these things were, and completely this ideology, the content which the film was trying to talk about the scheduled tribe and their innocence, and the police atrocity has been completely diluted, and so this is what is happening. So as Kalevani said, it is we have a lot of positive things. Anthropologists strongly believe in cultural values, that every community has been evolved and all culture traits are scientific and it has a relevance in everyday life. Such component has to be highlighted, and everybody should feel, yes, Jati should be taken in a positive sense. Yes, I belong, I have this knowledge system, these indigenous knowledge systems are mine and my grandparents has given this. To that extent, if you could take and feel the pride of it. I told this Pallar community has kept their agricultural knowledge system and felt it is their, they are the people who are good at water harvesting, and they know which thing to open, and the entire Tanjavur belt and that side, they are the dominant, and the agriculture has been completely dominated by this community once upon a time, till the government has taken these departments. Until then, it was purely done by the communities, and the role performance of these agricultural activities has been well taken care. But such things has not been documented, as Ramanathan has said. It has not been portrayed in any form, neither documentary nor in writings. Such positive things has to be portrayed, and I'm sure as the visual anthropologist, I know how strong these cinema media is, and we can definitely, the Dravidian party strongly believes in that also, but still without politicizing. If you could really taken up a good values, positive values, and I think we can achieve social justice and create a level playing ground for every community to play their. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Rob. Now for final remarks by Dr. Tennyson.
Thank you very much. I think we have had almost 2 hours of intensive discussion. And I really thank Prof. Sumadhi for joining and complimenting, because I think you bring the real heart of Tamil Nadu. Although I visited Madras University, gone right down to Nagarkoil and travel in Tamil Nadu, but I think your points and others from India who highlighted has enriched the discussion. Now I have 5 brief points. One is watching movies can be relaxation, but don't ever have the idea that it is just entertainment.
Yeah.
Every writer, every director has an ideology or a theme that they are pushing. Whether it is Hollywood or Bollywood or Collywood or other movies, a bigger player in the region are Korean movies.
Yeah.
And the soft diplomatic power that Korean movies are playing in Asia is unbelievable in that context. But I agree, movies bring positive points. There can be negative points. And I'm very interested in what Tan Sri Marimuthu said about the 40s and the 50s with the Dravidian movements and Parasakti and others. I think it gives me a better overview of the movies, Tamil movies, to look back. Just now, Shanti Dhairyam quoted 2 other movies on gender that is important. So movies are quite significant in that sense as entertainment, but there is a message. Whether it makes an impact or not, definitely the violence and other things we have been concerned. The objective, I'm responding to Amy Bala, the objective today was not to look at movies in general and its impact, but we were just specifically looking at a few movies that had a particular theme, and they came within a same period of time, whether it is Periyam Perumal 2018, Asodan in 2019, Karunan in 2021, Jayabim. So, and it was high profile. If you have Surya and Dhanush acting with their whole fan base, it comes quite significant in that context. Secondly, I think from what Prof. Sumati and others have said, the reality of caste and class divide is something we have to live with. And so we are fighting against a system that is so institutionalized within society, even if there are laws and related to class as well, and with identity. I think this has come out from the analysis. But I think what we are calling for is that in identity, you could be identified with a particular social grouping, which could be religious, ethnic, or caste or consciousness. But that identity should not be discriminatory and oppressive to other communities. I think this is the challenge with the human rights language for equality, because the constitutions, whether it is India or Malaysia, Malaysia carries on from the Indian constitution, the call for equality, irrespective of ethnicity, gender, where you are from or your location, and so forth. The non-discriminatory dimension. And the movies are highlighting the discriminatory element, whether in the love story. I didn't know on girls from high caste not allowed to marry men of low caste, and the Periyam Perumal brings that story out very clearly. But the reality, we are living with the reality of caste in a post-Periyar society, in a post-MGR, Anna, Karnanidhi, Jayalalitha society. That reality is there, and we have to see its implications here. Second. Third is definitely the place of law. There's very little discussion, maybe no lawyers in our group, but Indians form a very high percentage of the law, and they have fought many court cases on death in custody and so forth in our legal system. The place of law and the relevance, and I think Justice Chandu, and in that movie, the details, actually that movie I was told went into great detail on the court submission, even the arrangement of the court. We take it for granted. Other Tamil movies don't bring that out, and Chandu explains that. But really, it's coming, relevance to us is death in custody, police brutality. It's not just a phenomena in Tamil Nadu. I quoted the American example where you have had riots as a result of death in custody or videotaped of death taking place, of police brutality, of white against black, and the rise of the Black Lives Matter in the States. So here, high levels of death in custody and all the recommendations, Prof. Mari raised that. Of course, there were amendments here which came from the Royal Police Commission, and I was a member of that commission with regards to remand. But in terms of the inquiry system and the other investigation procedures, the custody officer, all these recommendations have not taken place, and Suhakam has investigated many of these as well, but there is no political will or pressure to make the governments of the day respond to that. But police brutality and the violence in the case is real, and the experiences of what took place is documented and highlighted. So the place of law and legal legal aid, these sort of support to powerless, voiceless communities, women, in the case of Sengani, is definite. The case was filed for her, and they won that case. So fifth and finally, for us in Malaysia, it's not just about improving education and health. It's really empowering the people to have their rights equalized in a way, in a society where sections of our society, I think Amy highlighted the Pillai, Dr. Kalai highlighted the experience of plantation workers then, now living in urban flats at the bottom. And ours, we are looking at it from a class struggle, which could have examples of caste in, because people of higher caste are definitely doing much better, or some sub-ethnic communities are doing much better than others in that context. So the empowerment of women, which comes out in these movies, the powerlessness of women, and the empowerment, economy, education, and so forth is quite critical. And finally, the citizens' rights and the constitutional literacy, empowerment through education, and so forth. Let me just close. I think Prof. Mari made reference to the Dravidian model. There was a publication in Madras, but it was published at Cambridge last year, the Dravidian model interpreting political economy of Tamil Nadu, Kalai Arasan and Vijay Bhaskaran's book that compared and looked at the Tamil Nadu model, and they were saying it's built on high levels of investment in education, primary school, preschool, reference to the feeding program that MGR highlighted. And the other is the women's empowerment, which went parallel in comparison to other states. And the book, of course, focuses on the Dravidian model, on high investment for human development, and the state policy of reservations. We heard some negative aspects, and the low caste mobilization and addressing caste-based inequalities. Maybe we can get a group to look at that book and see the lessons from Tamil Nadu as a state that has economically, educationally, socially moved up. They are comparing the Tamil Nadu development with that of Gujarat model, as well as the Punjab model of development. But they are saying the investment is at education at the heart and women's empowerment. I hope our work in Malaysia will empower women at the grassroots, which Amy and others highlighted, youth, which James and others are looking at, and hope we see another good Tamil movie that will come along. If my friends in Tamil Nadu can highlight, of course, we are all watching it in YouTube or going to the theater or seeing it, and you know, and of course, other movies are also quite nice. It rekindles Viswasam, I think, was one good movie, which is about family and community and just general story. And it's nice to relax and watch Tamil dance or a movie or what's that? Chennai Express is very popular because whenever I go to any school program, the lungi dance is the best dance that the children are performing here. So that's movie, but reality is reform. And I hope this discussion has spurred our interest to the reform agenda and what needs to be done in Malaysia for the upliftment of the communities, not just Indians, but poor communities, indigenous communities, native communities of Sabah and Sarawak. And James and I we were just in Paribunta recently with fishermen from the Malay community and paddy farmers from the Malay community and their struggles with the establishment, and they feel they are being discriminated, their opportunities. So it's cutting across ethnicity and groups as well. So Prof, that's my take on it. Sorry, we have gone beyond our time, but I hope there are just a few of us. We are recording this. We will circulate the recording because over 100 people registered, but a smaller group is present today. Thank you, Prof, and thank you to it.
Thank you, Dr. I think James would like to say something.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much for your participation. I believe it has helped all of us to understand the theme much better on social reform, movies, and so forth. And thank you very much, Prof. Sumati, that you have expounded well. And I should say that you expounded well on the theme and understanding the ground realities of caste and things like that. I think it is something that we can't avoid. We have to live with it. And I just hope that the young people in India and also in Malaysia, will be able to bring the change and the form. Because I think the change began in us, and whatever that we have learned today, and I think many of us here are social activists, and we want to bring the change in a very little way into our society and to bring hope, to the least and to the marginalized, so that we can always bring a change. And I want to also thank Prof. Dennison for initiating this, coming out with this brilliant idea, to have this discussion, and the Society for Community Development and Continuous Learning. We are very much glad to organize this, and we will be more happy to host more webinars, because there was a request, to organize a webinar on Tamil movies and influence on Indian society, and we see how best actually we can do this, because ours is more on continuous learning. And we want to bring a change in a little way that we can. And also thanks for this place. You can see we have a beautiful office here. This office actually belongs to the APPGM SDG, which is actually the Secretariat Office in localizing SDG along with the Malaysian MPs. So this is a bipartisan group, and we are here. And Prof. Dennison actually is the head of the society, head of the Secretariat, and I'm actually the officer over here on solution projects, and we also have Panni, who is in the project department as well. So thank you all for being patient with us. We started with 25 and we have 16, and also our Prof. Nathan He is the moderator. Thank you so much, Prof. Took time to come to moderate this wonderful session. And also thank you to all, and also Pane, who is the background, but he's a technical person who came very early to the office to ensure that today's session actually runs very well without any hiccups. Thank you all.
James, photo.
So let me.
And okay, can we have a photo
Can I
session? Yeah, please, Prof.
Oh, sorry.
Prof. Rangan, yes, please.
Since
You can on the
I'm the
cameras.
moderator, I still have to have the last word.
Yes.
of course.
Okay, but my friends here have already done all the things, and so I don't need to repeat. But I really enjoyed this webinar, and I would like to specifically thank the speakers, the two speakers, Prof. Denison and also Prof. Sumadhi. I think it has been a very rich discussion, and of course, all the sharing that you all have done through your comments and questions further consolidated what we need to do, the roadmap for the future.
Yeah.
Yes, the issue of Tamil empowerment, whether here or in India, is a work in progress.
Yes.
And we have to continue, never give up, and continue to see where we can make our contributions, where we can inject our thoughts and strategies so that we can overall contribute to the empowerment of the Indian community here as well as in India. So thank you so much all. Thank all the participants, and we wish you well, and we hope you will join this organization for another webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Cameras on, please. Cameras on, please. Ramani, yes, thank you, Ramani. Francis, Kunalan, who else? Sundari. All the cameras, okay, right. So can we have the photos? Yes, thank you, Pane.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and see you also. God bless you all.
See you.
Thank you, Prof. Sumadhi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
மீண்டும் சந்திப்போம்.
Thank you.
Yeah,
everyone.
sure.
Thank you,
We'll meet,
sir.
sir. We'll meet, sir. Welcome to Chennai. Now we are free from pandemic and we are normal.
Tamil Nadu, no quarantine.
No quarantine. Now almost the new normal situation has gone and we are back to normal.
All right. We will definitely come. I have always
Most
enjoyed
welcome.
my
Most
stay
welcome.
at Madras University
Yes,
Guest
sir.
House.
Yes, sir. All of us, all of you are welcome to Chennai, and it's a beautiful place. You should come and see.
நன்றி வணக்கம்.
Thanks, Ramani.
Nandri, Vanakkam.
Thank you, vanakkam.
Thanks, everyone.